All right, what's up, everybody? We live? We live? There's always like a lag period. It takes YouTube forever to actually notify me that I'm live. It's like 3 or 4 seconds. I'm sitting here like, durr. We're actually live. Hope you guys are great. Happy Saturday. It is a rainy day here in Pittsburgh. And yeah, whatever, part of spring. I guess the only thing I really don't like about the consistent rain is it blasts all of my grass, all of my flowers in the front yard. In the front yard, there's like a garden in the front. And yeah, it just makes everything grow super quickly to the point where I have to mow the lawn. Well, I guess once a week still is fine, but just like, I don't know, it gets insane. Like stuff grows overnight. It's just super quick. Let me see. I wrote down a list of topics to talk about as we get people in here. So last week I was dosing a lot of bromontane. Well, for like a week and a half prior to last week, leading up into last week. Now I have since ceased doing that because I don't like to, with certain nootropics, just consistently take them, even if I'm cycling every other day or something. I had a great run with it. You know, I'll be back to dosing bromontane maybe next month or something, you know, who knows, or maybe later on this month. It's a pretty short-lived effect for me. I'm, usually talking about 3 to 5 hours or so, but it's stimulating. It's very noticeable. It gives me energy. It's like, kind of comparable to nicotine patches. So I didn't dose a whole lot of bromontane at all this week. What have I dosed? Well, I've been taking my liposomal glutathione. This stuff is pretty rocking. I dosed Torque probably like 2 or 3 days this week. And then I dosed a gram of aniracetam with a choline source one of these earlier in the week. And that was pretty epic. Past a certain range, dose range on aniracetam, I definitely get side effects. And it's not anything to be very concerned about. It's just a little overstimulation, and I kind of just feel like I can't focus once the aniracetam gets past a certain threshold. So that's kind of where I'm at. Other racetams dosed high, pretty much the same effect with the exception of piracetam, which I really like. That is the OG racetam, okay? Piracetam is the OG, and it's OG for a reason. Every single other racetam was derived with the intention of kind of being a better version of piracetam, but they couldn't really do that because a lot of the other racetams have different mechanisms of action, or they just end up doing different things. And piracetam is its own kind of very powerful nootropic. So don't sleep on regular piracetam, my friends. I mean, there's people that may not be able to tolerate, some of the newer, more bioavailable ones or racetams that require lower doses that should just go back to regular piracetam. All right, so let's get to questions. Nudie Newts is asking, have I ever tried Admintane? I don't think so. Let me just quickly look at what that's doing. Admintane. Nicotinic antagonist. Dopamine agonist. Okay. I wouldn't like the nicotinic antagonism. Dopamine agonism, okay, that's good. The antiviral, anything else going on? Okay, it looks like just a dopamine agonist. Okay, I don't know how strong of a dopamine agonist that is, or which receptor it is. Let's see, dopamine D2 maybe. Let's see, because D2 receptor agonism, despite what people think, like dopamine agonism, is not really that powerful for inducing energy. It's better that you don't selectively agonize the receptors in order to get a dopaminergic response. You got to let the brain decide which receptors to put dopamine to. Yeah, I can't tell if it's like selective or not, but no, I've never tried it. Never taken it before. Have heard of it. Wouldn't consider it a nootropic. JWN. Oh, I lost my... There you go. Stack stronger than Adderall. Well, you'd probably be looking at, if you really want to go stronger than Adderall, you do this. You take 2 capsules of Torque, this stuff right here, and then you put a nicotine patch on, a 7 milligram nicotine patch on. I wouldn't go for 14 or 21 milligrams because that tends to be overstimulating for some people, actually make them throw up, or just get very uncomfortable and lightheaded, and then you have to take it off. So 2 capsules of Torque, 1 7 milligram nicotine patch. See how you fare. It'll probably be right around that Adderall-like state. It certainly is for me and the people that I've suggested it to. If you want to make that stronger, take a shot of espresso with it all. So then you're talking about 2 capsules of Torque, 1 7 milligram nicotine patch, and 1 shot of espresso. Then it would be very difficult for like 90% of people not to achieve an Adderall-like effect with that stack. Very, very powerful. Not for the faint of heart. Great question, though. I keep losing my pop-out chat. Here he goes. Jeff is saying, good morning. From you being a former soldier, what daily stack would you take if you were still serving? And what would you recommend to a current soldier or first responder today? Well, soldier's definitely different than a first responder, so I can try to answer that the best I can. If I was still in the Army, let's see, if we were in garrison, which is, being home in the States, I was at Fort Hood, Texas, waking up at 5:30 or something every day for PT. We'd be in formation by 5:45, run PT at 6 until about 7:15 or so. It was usually running 5 to 10 miles. And before that, it was like, fucking any amount of whether flutter kicks or push-ups or any other creative exercises our section sergeant or platoon sergeant had us do. And then shower, breakfast, and then right to training at like 9 a.m. And then training all day till 6:30, and then that's that. Iraq was a completely different story because there was no schedule. We would be woken up at 3 a.m. if there was a necessary mission that we had to execute. That was somewhat rare, but we did. Otherwise, everyday missions, cleaning weapons thereafter, trying to rest, back on mission. So different contexts. In garrison at home, like for training days, which is every day, I would probably be dosing the same stuff I'm dosing now. Alcar, teocrine, theobromine, macunapurines, just for that dopaminergic kind of wakefulness-like energy. Certainly, if I was able to get away with it, I would be dosing modafinil on like really hard days, because there'd be days like where, I don't know, if we went to the range, we have to clean weapons after the range, right? So we're sitting at the company HQ after a range day of 3 or 4 hours shooting M4s. And then we're cleaning micro bits of carbon out of the bolt, like just to the point of absolute perfection, because they would be inspected before they went back into the armory. So those days I would rather use modafinil because I'm there forever. As far as Iraq goes, I don't know. Probably modafinil, right? I would want to be very, very alert. I mean, not that I wasn't anyway, because like you're driving around route predators. You should Google that route. One of the most dangerous roads on the world. You're pretty fucking aware, dude. But current first responders, yeah, I just think you need to be alert and awake. I would shoot for the methylxanthines, theobromine, teocrine, Alcar, dynamine. People are sleeping on dynamine. It's a very, very powerful compound. Might just be up and coming in a product that I'm launching in the next couple of months. So look forward to that. That's what I would suggest, for that situation. But yeah, you need wakefulness. I think the cognitive part you need too. So if you want to bring in some racetams at low doses, that would be useful. The bookworm is saying, paracetam massively improves my reading speed. Yeah, it's just underrated, dude. I mean, just because it's the OG, or I guess people think because you require higher doses of it, and then you need lower doses of something like aniracetam, that somehow paracetam is like not great or something. It's fucking awesome. I mean, the stuff works very well. Yeah, you do have to take higher doses, but the effect is different too. It's the research is telling us improved cerebral blood flow, improved hemispheric communication, which is huge, man. If you have better connectivity between hemispheres, that's huge. And that's like largely dictated by the corpus callosum, which is a sort of separating middle region of your brain. JWN is saying, maybe I'll give Torque a try. Anything stronger OTC with serotonin-like effect? OTC that would foster serotonin. I mean, you're looking at 5-HTP. Obviously, L-theanine will mildly raise serotonin concentrations. That's essentially it. I'm getting a question about TRT. Do you recommend TRT for people having persistent sexual effects after stopping 5-AR inhibitors? Yes, definitely. TRT plus HCG plus adequate estrogen control. But at the same time, you may want to look at, I don't even know if there's a way to measure this, but you may want to, at least as a hypothesis, have the idea in your head that maybe you need to be making more 5-alpha reductase enzymes, and that the constant inhibition had somehow downregulated the production of 5-AR. Now, I wouldn't know off the top of my head because I haven't worked with PFS people. I work with PSSD people. What would foster 5-alpha reductase enzymes? A very popular YouTuber, bodybuilder, TRT expert, kind of biohacker guy named Vigorous Steve, who was on our podcast recently, and I was on his podcast months back, suggests NMN for that. NMN is pretty necessary for, a host of enzymatic and physiological processes. So that may improve 5-alpha reductase, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Definitely TRT for sure. And then you want to look at if you're going to look at your DHT levels, obviously, to determine whether or not 5-alpha reductase is inhibited in any capacity. And it's like, what were you on? Because finasteride like may stay in your system for like up to 4 months or something. Literally, it doesn't metabolize out for a long time. That's partially, it looks like, why people get PFS, right? Because just even when they stop the drug, there's persistent effect. And SSRIs too, but not with 5-alpha reductase. SSRIs fuss with neurosteroids. They antagonize the androgen receptor. People have been stuck on serotonin. It's absolutely an endocrine problem. Both are. Good question, though. And I'm missing some questions here. Mike V, thoughts on Glynac? Yeah, so I've done a video about that. I think the stuff is awesome. I haven't taken the high doses of NAC and glycine yet. I will bring it in, but I just don't feel a need to bring it in because I take this stuff. It's literally like next to me because I just dosed it. And we can see, yeah, that's liposomal glutathione, and phosphatidylcholine is the liposomal agent. Stuff works very well. But if you don't want to take that stuff, or you want to try Glynac because the studies on it are like way powerful for reducing for optimizing insulin sensitivity and improving mitochondrial function and reducing oxidative stress, probably raise your testosterone levels, then yeah, Glynac would be useful. Jesse Patone, anything to absorb B12 better? Well, make sure you have enough stomach acid. I mean, if you're trying to co-administer something with a B12 supplement, hard to say. Off the top of my head, I really wouldn't know, except for other bees help other bees absorb better. So, take it with a B complex. Otherwise, potentially sublingual B12, like you can get liquid droppable sublingual B12. But otherwise, if you're trying to absorb B vitamins from your food, have enough stomach acid for sure. That's one thing we know clinically, that if you go below a certain threshold in stomach acid, which is usually induced by PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, they actually shut the proton pumps off, which produce stomach acid. Then yeah, you run into issues with B12 absorption, among other nutrients, by the way. Nudie Newts is saying, have you ever dealt with clients that were intolerant of coffee? I find coffee destroys all aspects of my cognitive executive functioning. Yeah, I mean, I've had people that, for one reason or another, usually like an anxiety disorder, from something they're doing in their regimen otherwise, like guys that are on TRT that don't manage estrogen. I've seen them have a hard time with coffee, right? But when you fix the underlying issue, it tends to be better. If any stimulation is causing you an issue, people like to go, okay, well, this is just me. I can't drink coffee. And yeah, maybe for now you can't. And that's right, because you don't want to feel like shit. But there's something wrong, Classic case is a guy that I worked with documented adrenal hormone problems, adrenal fatigue, the thing that people don't want to say exists just because of the nomenclature, right? It's just the name, whatever. The adrenal glands can't get fatigued. Yeah, no shit. But you can stop making adequate ACTH and pumping out enough cortisol and aldosterone, which is going to make you have saltwater imbalances and also feel like you have zero energy all the time. At which point, and in which case coffee is terrible for those people. Anything stimulating is terrible for those people. So yeah, I have seen that. You got to get to the root of why you can't use coffee, why it's destroying your executive function. There's probably some other insult happening there. Dave Asprey, who I don't love because I think he's very sort of spammy or whatever, but he's also smart. Popularized the notion that there are mild amounts, trace amounts of toxins that could actually be messing with brain performance in certain kinds of coffee, like certain brands of coffee. They're called mycotoxins. And I think he pretty much did demonstrate that it was true. So, if you have some other burden happening and you're consuming coffee that's high in mycotoxins, then that's probably what's happening. Otherwise, you got to look at what else, might be going on. Donald Pump has been using pramiracetam 3 times a week during work with some coffee, and L-tyrosine gets laser focus. I love that. Yeah, that stuff is like a study drug. I mean, it's one of the most powerful study compounds, I think, ever, if used correctly and if used in a way that's dialed in for you. Not everyone's going to get a good response from it, and people are going to dose it too high and run into side effects and stuff. Appears a certain vendor with a biodiamine. Yeah, I've been hearing rumors that Science Bio is back. I hope that I used to look, there was another company, I think it was called botany.bio, that came out, in the last year. And they, it's like they were basically science bio, like everything looked the same. And like even their labels and stuff. I'm looking at Science Bio's website right now, and it looks like, it looks like they're, let me see if anything's in stock. Yeah, they literally have phenylpiracetam. Oh no, it's out of stock. Okay. Yeah, it looks like a lot of stuff is still out of stock. The website is up though. So Science Bio may be back up. Those of you that don't know, Science Bio was a great source for all kinds of, nifty chemicals that, for one reason or another had to kind of kick the bucket like late last year. I want to say late last year. Yeah, I don't know exactly when that was, but they might be back. Science.bio. Very trustworthy. I used to get 9 MEBC from them, and it was always very good. Dino, Viking Testosterone program. Nope. That was a consult, really. So you can still book consults and work on testosterone, right? But it was comprised of a very particular protocol, which then I found a better protocol, or a protocol that was more generally applicable. Not that the VTP didn't work, but I found a better protocol. So I essentially discontinued it, started consulting just kind of generally. I mean, you can go get an email consult or a call consult. And I mean, we can put you on the Viking Testosterone protocol, or a better one. I mean, there are better options. PBB is asking about taking Picamillan in the morning. That's GABAergic, largely. Going to make you make more GABA. Well, it essentially is GABA crossing right into the brain via this synthetic bond with, I believe, B3. And yeah, you can take it in the morning. It depends on your brain, but generally speaking, I don't think that would be very fostering of productivity. I think it would be inhibiting of productivity. I mean, you would want to just like chill out. So that's my suggestion. I wouldn't, unless you have anxiety where you need to chill out, don't take it in the morning. But if you have that, then yeah, sure, take it in the morning. Do I think liposomal glutathione is the best way to take glutathione? I do think that. Yes, I do. Yeah, the studies are actually really clear. It's the only way to actually replenish intracellular glutathione is by dosing it with a liposomal agent in it, usually some sort of fatty substance. Dom Warren, Phenibut is illegal in my country. Is there an alternative that increases GABA? Yeah, Picamillan, which is actually actual GABA bonded with a B vitamin that will cross into your brain easier. Phenibut is not GABA, nor do I suggest using it. Because you're going to downregulate GABA B function and create a tolerance, like almost like a dependence on Phenibut. That's the biggest problem with it, right? I mean, you could use it sparingly and get away with it, but how many people have absolute self-control to not use something that makes them feel really good sparingly? DJ Millen, do you think psychiatric conditions could be managed or even cured with nootropics in the future? I think managed, when you use the word cure, you got to be real careful, because then like whatever, so as an example, I know someone who's got, what's the disease? It's schizophrenia, but it's a type of schizophrenia. And that's genetically inherited, right? His uncle also has it. Dad doesn't have it. His dad doesn't have it. Nor did his dad have it, but his uncle has it. And then this guy has it, right? So, obviously that's a dopaminergic problem, schizophrenia. And so you got to be careful with the word cure. Other psychiatric conditions, yeah, aided and managed probably, right? Cure, when you're looking at cures for things, I'm not sure any nootropic can cure anything. I mean, it's possible, right? But that gets way down to vitamins, minerals, like, that sort of stuff. Hormones, that's where you cure things. Like I've seen people cure their GERD with bioavailable B1, things like that. So good question. Darren is saying, how does a B complex work? I took it and put me in a good mood. Maybe I was deficient in B vitamins. Yeah, I mean, well, they're all necessary for the synthesis of neurotransmitters, right? So you're probably making more acetylcholine, more serotonin, more dopamine. Like B5, B6, more dopamine. B5, more acetylcholine. B1, more acetylcholine. So you can be making more neurotransmitters having B vitamins in the system, but they're also very necessary for kind of energy production, ATP specifically. You need B vitamins for ATP. Critically need B vitamins for ATP. You know, in Alzheimer's people and people that have neurodegeneration as they age, like we look at their brain scans, and there's published literature on this, and it's like all of them have these problems, these anatomical issues in their brains, not just the beta amyloid plaques, but that get better when they dose B vitamins. I dose 2 B complexes a day. Some people can't stand that because, you know, it could be overstimulating. Not me. 2 B complexes a day. And if it ever gets to the point where I feel like it's messing with my sleep, a half a B complex the second dose. But Jarrow B Right has like is mainstay on my nootropics counter, or my supplement counter rather. I'm glad it worked for you. Keep taking it. Keep taking them. PBB is asking, is it a bad idea to take 400 milligrams Picamillan at once for stimulant effect? This is not a stimulant, as I explained. I'm not sure if you're listening, but that's not a stimulant at all. It is a downer for sure. Naranjan, put your thoughts and your experience on resveratrol as a nootropic. Haven't fussed with it all that much. I do remember taking resveratrol and it made me feel a little funky, and I forget exactly what I attributed that to. Potentially a blood pressure decrease. I don't remember what I ended up figuring out, but I was like, well, I don't even need this, whatever. So I stopped taking it. Dom Warren, what would you recommend for someone on finasteride trying to counter its sides? The sexual sides, you know, if you're talking about the sexual sides, have your testosterone at 800 plus nanograms per deciliter. That's usually going to work for most guys. Manage estrogen. Don't let it get out of range. You'd probably be best if you were taking gonadotropin replacement too, like HCG or Clomid, so that you can keep your endogenous production going. But then after that, you got a protocol, right? You got to keep your numbers in a range that makes sense. Keep the estrogen within range, not out of range. You know, just because you have 1,000, just because you have 1,200 total tests, people always like to go, oh, well, that means your estrogen is sitting at 45. Well, it rises, you know, correspondingly with test, and that's normal. Horse shit. There's no piece of scientific literature that backs that up, and it doesn't make sense. It's flawed logic. It's a fallacious argument. Yeah, the body's going to do all kinds of things in response to what you do to it. Doesn't mean those things are good. No one's ever been able to demonstrate that that's good. So anyway, yeah, tangent. Yeah, increase your testosterone, manage estrogen. Do not let it get out of range. And, you know, cross your fingers. That's all I would really say. But also look into, you know, how to maintain 5-alpha reductase enzyme function. Potentially NMN can help you do that. Again, this is I can't back that up scientifically. I am referencing a conversation I had with a very intelligent dude named Vigorous Steve, who suggests that's the case. What do you stack B12 with? Other B vitamins, definitely. Adam is saying, I just got bromontane 9 milligram nasal spray. Have you tried this form? Have I insulfated bromontane? I don't think I have. No, I don't think that I have. It should be effective. I just think the dose translation is going to be a little different, Adam. Like, you know, if your regular oral powder dose is 50 milligrams, I don't think that would translate to 50 milligrams of nasal spray, right? Because nasal spray permeates your like olfactory endothelium and gets right into your bloodstream like super quickly. So it's going to be different. I would try having the dose of the nasal spray compared to your regular oral dose of powder of bromontane. So if your oral dose is 50 milligrams, dose the nasal spray in 25. And then, you know, work your way up if you need to. Naranhan is asking, how do you increase blood flow? Well, there's many ways. You can inhibit PDE5 with something like Cialis, and that will certainly it essentially recycles, like it prevents PDE5 from taking blood and kind of recycling it back, and, you know, keeps blood flowing pretty well. Piracetam, a OG nootropic that we were talking about earlier, will improve blood flow in your brain. Vinpocetine, another nootropic, will improve brain blood flow, and so will a chemical called pycnogenol. Those will all improve blood flow. Depends on the cause. You know, if you have like microclots or something from long COVID or COVID, then nattokinase and nattoserase would be useful in those situations. And then you're breaking up those little fibrin clots and making your blood flow better. Otherwise, cardio. Do cardio for sure. Eat a lot of greens. I recently got and I was so frustrating because like there are so many green supplements that have way too much shit that I don't want. People are they just want to stuff everything in there. Oh no, there's acaberry in there. Cool. Like, bro, I just wanted, I just wanted micronutrients in it and what you would get from regular vegetables, vitamin K, etc. Like, and I eventually found one with just moringa powder, kale powder, and wheatgrass. Moringa powder is one of like the most nutrient dense powders like on the planet. And I imagine that's increasing the hell out of my blood flow, or at least optimizing it. So yeah, some sort of clean greens drink, like green mix would be good. It's hard to get all the vegetables that you need, in a diet. Jonathan Layson is saying, hey, do you know of any sites that sell injectable nootropics blends, such as injectable amino acids? Not really. We usually don't talk about sources here. You got to look around. Go to the Nootropics subreddit. Go to the Nootropics Facebook groups. Just type in Nootropics. There's one called Nootropics 2.0. 2.0. And then there's one that's just called Nootropics. I would go to those Facebook groups and kind of just see where people are getting their stuff from. That's ultimately what you've got to do. All right. Let me see if I missed anything. Adam Schwartz, favorite supplement for acute libido effects and erection quality. Usually not down to a single supplement. Because look, I mean, if you're vitamin D deficient, vitamin D is going to be the supplement, right? If you have a problem with like 6-hormone binding globulin or something, then boron is going to be the supplement that fixes it. If somehow you're not converting enough or you don't have adequate free testosterone, then what's that stuff called? Pine pollen is going to be useful for you. So it really all depends on your situation, man. But yeah, I mean, just to give a general recommendation, liquid pine pollen would be useful for free testosterone. That should help, libido and erection quality. But that system's so complex, you don't want to target it with this like sort of fallacious idea or hypothesis that it's going to be one compound that'll fix it. Almost never. You may get a temporary boost in something, but it's just almost never one compound. Yeah, the neuroendocrine hormonal cascades are way more complex. Cortex standalone products in the future. Well, the new Cortex stack is coming out in two months or so. I mean, who knows? Lead times are different between different factories. We just had to switch factories because our, previous factory we've been with for almost 8 years or something kicked the bucket, went out of business. So new factory, new production, and new formula. It's going to be sick. James, any supplement that improves hand-eye coordination? That's a very, very specific. Off the top of my head, I really don't know. I imagine you're going to get better hand-eye coordination, though, generally speeding everything up, which most of the methylxanthines, teacrine, dynamine, caffeine, theobromine, they are going to improve hand-eye coordination just because you're functioning better. But, because I take that kind of stuff when I game, when I play like Modern Warfare 2 or Warzone 2, which suck, by the way, compared to the 2019 version. And or Battlefield. I'm certainly better. Hand-eye coordination's better in that state. Let's see. Donald Pump. Love that name, bro. Besides good sleep and healthy diet, for us natties, should we ice our balls like boost your biology? Haha, that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, look, marginal increases in test you may get from icing the testicles. It just sets up a cooler environment for the Lytic cells to make test, from cholesterol. But yeah, I think that's a very overrated, hypey kind of, like biohack thing. Like people think it's like, oh my God, it's like so cool. Like, yeah, show me one person who, tested their total test, free test, and estrogen just for the sake of, having everything in the picture, and then ice their balls, and then, jumped up more than 100 nanograms per deciliter total tests. Yeah. I mean, the guy from Booster Biology is, links everything in an affiliate link, has very spammy like thumbnails and headlines. I mean, I tried to advise him on how to actually like do a YouTube channel because I used to be his friend, but he turned really strange. He was like very focused on just, making money from people and not caring about the community. And that's like, I don't know. He got really weird, very dogmatic and super weird. So no, yeah. I mean, I think anything you're going to find on people with affiliate links, like any YouTuber, right, where that's exclusively what they have and they don't have their own products, you got to question what they're saying, because no doubt they have an intention to send you to their affiliate links, right? So that's going to skew how they're, what they're saying. Why TRT over SARMs? A lot more manageable, generally safer, I would say. Much more literature behind it. Much more anecdotal, so you have a large swaths of people that are able to at least weigh in on their experiences, so that you kind of get, some bit of an idea on how to modify your protocol or whatever. Those are just a couple good examples. 00 Vengeance, thank you so much for the $10. By the way, you guys can super chat. I will put your question on the screen and we'll take more time and kind of do a deep dive if we have to. You can ask questions for free, but they'll be, kind of quick answers. 00 Vengeance, how's it going, Ryan? What is your opinion on people in their 20s hopping on TRT, assuming they're doing everything else right, like diet and exercise? Well, I mean, look, if you're, my opinion would be this: if your levels of testosterone at 23 are sub 500, and you have libido and erection problems, and then you've done everything else to try to, get testosterone in a higher range, you could just be one of those guys that doesn't make enough testosterone, But you'd want to run through every natural approach first, like down to and including, are you eating enough cholesterol? That's like one thing, man, major thing. Do you have enough micronutrients to help you make testosterone, right? And signal testosterone? Have you tested your GnRH, your LH and FSH, the gonadotropin hormones, to see if they're like inadequate ranges? Because if they're not, maybe there's something you can do to make them function better, like taking Clomid as an example. There's so many things to try. But assuming you've done everything that a puritanical biohacker would do, then, look, everybody's going to be on TRT in 40, 50 years. No question. No question about it. And maybe it'll take longer than that, but I just think testosterone levels are going like this. I'm 39 and going to be 40. I was 39 when I went on TRT. So I managed to, but I'm a biohacker, right? So like, I know all this stuff and I don't fall for like, the one singular compound argument that this will raise test or that'll raise test. I was on like a 20 compound protocol and that kept my test great until it didn't. And then it started dropping. I went from 950 to 770 in like 2.5 months. Like, all right, something's got to change. So then I went on TRT. But yeah, there are people that, may need to go on TRT earlier. 20s, hard to say, unless you got something really major that's inhibiting your testosterone production, it's like, look, I don't think it's a terrible idea, because what's the harm in it? If you got a properly managed protocol, it's only going to benefit your health. Hold on, I lost your question. Yeah, it's only going to benefit your health. But yeah, people like to warn against it, because then I think the most general reason is like people are like, oh, then you got to be on it forever. And oh, you're too young for it. You should have high tests. Well, if you don't have high tests and you like to feel better, yeah, I mean, talk with a doc and see what, see what they think. And if you feel like you need to go some other route, because the medical establishment is really reluctant to prescribe TRT that young, then, you are a free man to make your own decisions. But yeah, I know. I don't, at 20, your test shouldn't be dropping that low or dropping low. You should do everything natural possible to try to get it back up. But if that's not working, maybe TRT would be, useful. I really don't see a huge issue with it. There's plenty of people in their 20s that are on TRT and SARMs and other things. Thank you for the $10. Really appreciate it. Good question. Robert Evans, best supplements, low prolactin, vitamin E, P5P, and I think a B complex every day is going to help. And what else did I recently discover? Lowering estrogen. Yeah. If you lower your serum estradiol, not too low, Like don't lower it below 20 picograms per milliliter on the ultra sensitive or even the sensitive estradiol. But if you lower estrogen, you're going to make less prolactin. And that's via estrogen's interaction with the D2 receptors in the lactotropes of your pituitary gland. Clinical science, right? Published literature. So lowering estrogen will help. P5P and vitamin E will also help. All three of those things, you probably lower prolactin significantly. But I mean, I don't know what your prolactin number is, but if it's sitting above 40, what is it, nanograms per milliliter, then get an MRI for a pituitary tumor, unless you're on kratom or an opioid receptor agonist, which will, raise prolactin, or some sort of dopamine antagonist. That's going to raise prolactin too. Dopamine receptor antagonist. Not many thoughts on taurine. Always gave me stomach issues. Never really liked it. I tried various doses. Diedrich is saying, I eat a lot of chocolate for gaming. Yeah, I guess the theobromine is pumping you up, man, giving you some energy. Robert Evans is saying to James' question, maybe chloracetam would help. Not sure what the question was there. Lloyd McLeod, thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate it, brother. Hope you're doing well. Lloyd goes, new PEP, centrophenoxine, uridine, choline bitartrate. When combined in a pill, I see condensation and clumping. You know why? Which one of those would be? I would wager the centrophenoxine is the problem, and it might be because of the acidity. This is just me. I'm reaching here, but that could be the issue. I don't know what. Oh, so choline bitartrate. Does that stuff clump? God, I forget. I forget if choline bitartrate clumps. I haven't had a choline bitartrate container in quite some time. Alpha GPC clumps. Alcar clumps. These things clump, right? And both of those are kind of acetylated, heavy acidic acid with it. So whichever one of these has acidic acid, and I would wager it's the centrophenoxine, that could be why it's clumping. Thanks for the question. Thanks for the $5, Lloyd McLeod. Good question. All right, Jonathan is asking, what type of doctors would be best to discuss nootropics usage with to manage issues that they would know what they're talking about? Yeah, it's difficult. Psychiatrist was familiar with them, but not what I needed. Functional medicine doctor, maybe. Like any doctor that, in addition to what they may have learned in medical school, they also are up on new thinking and new ideas, new creative ideas. And I wouldn't call what we're doing established science, even though there are many papers to back up, the use of nootropics and what they're doing, et cetera. But we're extrapolating from that, experimenting on our own, and then bringing that whole plethora of data to the internet. So someone who's familiar with all that too, in addition to what they learned in medical school, would be a good person. And I don't know what type of doctor that would be, specialty wise, but probably a functional medicine doctor, something of that type. I've always had pretty bad experiences with doctors relative to nootropics. In fact, can I think of any doctor that I know of where I mentioned nootropics and they were like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. No. I mean, even my endocrinologist, who is a smart dude, like he's like, nootropics, he's like, what do you mean? Adderall, modafinil? He doesn't even know. Super Fortnite guy, Super X. Fortnite guy. Any nootropics to help balance the brain and its hemispheres to heal from gay homosexual thoughts? What? I don't think it's a hemispheric issue. You want to look at hormones for sure. I mean, yeah, you want to look at estrogen and prolactin and see if they're in any weird ranges. Anything above the reference range, you probably want to get down. Remember, when you're born and a male and the male penis is developing, it literally estrogen inhibits the development of the male penis. When it's developing, estrogen basically inhibits it from growing to its kind of normal size and actually physically developing. In adulthood, estrogen causes venous leakage. Now, I mean, estrogen high above the reference range, consistently above the reference range, causes venous leakage, right? And so if you've got, but also estrogen in high quantities in the absence of androgens causes sexualization of the brain in that orientation. I think that's very clear. So, I look at your hormones, look at prolactin, Because if prolactin's super high, you may have some homosexual thoughts, or you may be wanting to be motherly, and definitely look at estrogen. Both of those hormones you got to look at. If you have to lower them, go for it. But then stay there, like lower them, keep them low, get androgens in the picture, testosterone specifically, and, execute therapy for some considerable period of time. And then that may remasculinize the brain and then kind of defeminize the brain, if that's like something that is happening. But I've seen that happen before with people that are taking, I believe it was antipsychotics. I forget the name of the drug and exactly what it did, but I'm almost positive it was an antipsychotic, which is a dopamine receptor blocker, right? And so that's going to raise prolactin. And then in this person, they were experiencing the same thing. So, how do you couch that, right? You got to look at prolactin and estrogen, and get on androgens and stay there consistently. Chosen One is saying, I think you talked about temporal lobe. Yes, binaural beats can use meditation for each brain area. Yeah, there are binaural beats that are made to target certain regions. Prefrontal cortex, anterior cingulate gyrus, amygdala, temporal lobes, limbic system. So yes, YouTube them and check it out. See what you can find. Occipital lobe. That's like the visual center. That's funny. Maybe there's some occipital lobe ones. You could just use psilocybin. That'll turn on your occipital lobe. Wisdom highlights, but that's a great question, by the way. I didn't mean to make that a joke or something. That's actually an excellent question. Wisdom highlights. What do you think of Parkinson's and 9-MeBC? Yeah, the literature on that, that's what 9-MeBC studied for. Yeah, it helped them a lot. Because, you got to remember, Parkinson's is defined by probably a lack of gene expression for dopamine neuron regeneration or generation. And potentially something that's like degrading dopamine neurons. 9-MeBC regenerates dopaminergic neurons. And upregulates tyrosine hydroxylase, which is going to make you make more dopamine. Donald Pump, what a question for Fortnite guy. Wisdom highlights. Any nootropics for Parkinson's? Yeah, 9-MeBC. But again, well, I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't really give you any suggestions on a disease state like that. However, I have seen ultra high dose mecunapurines be effective in that case. I literally have a client who came to me for, well, that essentially, but trying to seek alternatives, who was dosing 50 milligrams Mucuna every day. Now, she had gastrointestinal symptoms from that because, so much dopamine is going to give you GI symptoms, but she didn't need any Parkinson's medication. Anecdotal, yes. Is that my medical advice? No. It's just an observation. JD1, make sure everyone tune in to watch my Lakers beat the Chicken Nuggets tonight. This is an important game. Take care, everyone. Happy Saturday. All right. Thanks, bro. I hope someone wins, and I hope they're happy that they won. Jordan G Unit with the big $10. Thank you so much for the super chat, bro. Jordan is saying, just started TRT 3 weeks ago. 140 milligrams test per week. 0.25 milliliters ganadorelin. 0.25 milligrams of anastrozole on shot day. Had to switch clinics. A new lab show greater than 1,500 total test. 19 nanograms free tests. I don't know what your free test measurement. I'm not sure what that is. Shouldn't it be measured in, I actually forget, but 19 free tests. I'd have to look at what the measurement is, like, what the reference range is for that particular measurement. Different people tend to like reference it. Different labs have different reference ranges and different actual measurements, which I just think convolutes everything. Your total high T is, you've got ganadorelin there, which, yeah, that's going to make you make more LH and FSH, I think, from the hypothalamus level, from the GnRH level, right? Ganadorelin is essentially a peptide that either it mimics GnRH or something to that effect, and it's going to make you make more LH and FSH. That's not a super high dose of ganadorelin, so you're responding very positively to this. At the same time, though, 3 weeks, test a week. Yeah, what is your injection frequency? Because if your injection frequency is once per week, then then this 1500 number is not abnormal, right? You're catching it in a peak probably. If you ran the labs in a trough, which is when the testosterone gets to its peak point and then starts half-lifing out of your system, then it would probably be lower than that. Like, it's not abnormal for guys that are on infrequent injections to be supra-physiological in terms of testosterone for a few days of the week. It's not abnormal at all. How do you feel? Is the real question. How do you feel? And what's your estradiol like? They got you on 25.25 of an anastrozole on shot day, which looks like you're doing once a week. That looks like an okay dose to start, considering you'll definitely be making a lot of estrogen at 1500 total T. And whatever that peak is of testosterone, you're going to be aromatizing the hell out of that shit for the most part. What is your estradiol like? And how do you feel? So Jordan's following up with 70 milligrams twice weekly. Labs are taken 2.5 days after injection. Yeah, so you're still in a peak. Your labs 2.5 days after injection, you're still in a peak. I don't know if you're using cypionate, but yeah, you're peaking at day between 2 and 4 on testosterone cypionate. So maybe slightly sooner. So that's what's going on there. If you feel great, leave it alone. Leave it alone. If you feel great, leave it alone. And then you want to test on your trough. I mean, you're doing twice weekly. Hard to actually find a trough with testosterone cypionate twice weekly, but you want to try to shoot for what you would think is the lowest amount of total T, depending on when you injected last. And then test your test. If you start running into prostate problems, like it's harder to pee, you have incontinence, or if you start running into prostate problems or insomnia or anxiety, that would be the time to probably lower the dose. But I assume you're managing E2 as well, like where it is on the blood work. And because if it gets too high, it's going to mess with your sleep. So yeah, if you feel great, leave it, man. Keep running labs though, because that can change at any time. Sometimes the TRT protocol is great, and then it's a bit of a moving target. Things change. Jordan, thank you so much for the $10. Really appreciate the super chat. Great question, dude. Yeah, look at your E2, see where it's at. But otherwise, if you feel great, don't touch it. Can't tell you how many guys changed their TRT protocol because they heard something or read something or whatever, and they were feeling amazing, and then they stopped. Just keep an eye on that estradiol. You're only 3 weeks in. I don't know what your E2 number is. 0.25 milligrams anastrozole once a week should be okay, to keep E2 in an adequate range. This might end up being a great protocol. Now, there's a lot of new age, trendy, non-doctor, non-established, biohackers that are saying that you don't need to manage estrogen and that one shot a week is bad because why not just do it, frequently and more stable and all that shit. Yeah, a lot of people do respond better to subcutaneous, injections every day, every other day, because of the way that the testosterone is being dispersed from that, fatty tissue as opposed to the muscle tissue and how that affects them. But if this works for you, stay there. Don't take anyone else's advice. Stay there. Great question. Super X Fortnite guy goes, my dad gets a TRT shot every 6 days. He says by the time 5 days come, he feels a little more tired prior to getting his next shot. Yeah, the hormones are, they're not crashing. They're just, when you inject infrequently, you get usually a supraphysiological level of testosterone. Means it goes above the reference range for sure. But then it relatively quickly, within a couple days, will drop back down within range. But if it's executed correctly, in 6 days, I don't really see it being a problem. The test should still be therapeutic, right? Meaning above 800 nanograms per deciliter, which I imagine it is at that point. But yeah, he's probably feeling the trough. Yeah. When I was doing every 4th day intramuscularly, I certainly felt the trough. And on the 3rd day, I was like, I'm not feeling great. I've since switched to more frequent injections, which do stabilize, how I feel for sure. But at the same time, my SHBG is low, right? I know guys that have very high SHBG and they do awesome on infrequent injections. So you want to look at your sex hormone binding globulin, or your dad does in that particular case. But I don't think that's terrible. If it's just the day before the shot, the day before the next TRT injection, that's fine. If the libido and erection quality and health markers are good, tell him don't fuss with his regimen. Bale Schist. Is it safe to take 500 Mucuna? 20% L-Dopa regularly? Yes. Yeah, Mucuna is not an unsafe supplement. There are some unscrupulous YouTubers who will make you think that, or is it unscrupulous? They make you think that Mucuna is dangerous, but they're conflating Mucuna with pharmaceutical L-Dopa, which is like comparing, I don't know, a pea shooter to a 240 Bravo machine gun. Like, it's just not even close, dude. Yeah, Mucuna is perfectly safe. Jesse Batone, sup for the prostate. Drug would be Cialis. Pretty helpful for maintaining blood flow and kind of keeping it in adequate ranges. But it's a topic for debate, right? Because there's estrogen receptors in the prostate, you know, and there's literature that suggests that the estrogen receptors and the binding to those receptors furthers prostate growth. Prolactin, okay, large amounts of circulating prolactin. This is all published literature. What does it do? It induces a larger density of androgen receptors on the prostate, which could exacerbate BPH or, you know, eventually lead to prostate problems. So hormones are an important part of it. Otherwise, Cialis would be very useful. With some highlights, can you guys give a like? This is amazing. Only 10, but watching more. Yes, if you guys want to just like the thing too, and if you ever watch any of our videos, just like the video. I would love for you to like it. It takes 2 seconds and it actually means a lot. You know, we're dealing with a somewhat ongoing shadow ban with YouTube because they're assholes and they think we're talking about things we're not. So, you know, it's always useful to have you guys kind of help us beat that out. We were also banned 5 times and I had to fight to get us back on the air. So that's not just me making that up. Okay. Michael is saying safe to stack tyrosine and Nalt. I take Nalt in the morning, tyrosine midday. Yeah, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, if you require that much of it, that much of the dopamine and noradrenaline, then I think that's fine. You know, not gonna be harmful to your health. I can't tolerate a lot of tyrosine, a couple 100 milligrams and like some bit of Nalt, and I'm good. But past that, I'm like, don't feel good. Chosen One, thoughts on semen retention and infrequent ejaculation? Infrequent ejaculation, right? So just not ejaculating. What's the optimal cycle? Do wet dreams impact your semen retention and benefits? I would say for people that have largely okay levels of testosterone and the sexual system is, you know, largely fine, and there's not something majorly wrong, is what I'm trying to get at, then I think that these kinds of things will help. You know, I think you're excreting some nutrients when you ejaculate, so that's one thing. It does change, I believe, your free testosterone levels, and then post-ejaculation, prolactin is going to surge for a brief period, right? So none of those things are good for sexual function or energy. But again, it's all temporary and kind of in place for a reason. I think if you're having an issue with it, you ought to look at prolactin, right? Because even if you're in range, if you get it to like let's just put a hypothetical out here, right? You're sitting at 16 nanograms per milliliter prolactin. You have sex or masturbate, and then afterwards you don't feel like having sex or masturbating for another 3 days. You take your 16 nanograms per milliliter prolactin down to 7 nanograms per milliliter prolactin, which is not crashed, and not at 16, you're probably going to be able to masturbate 2 hours later, have sex, maybe even later on the day have sex again. You know, it's called reducing your refractory period, which you can do by lowering prolactin, even if it's in range. I have experience with that because I've experimented with all kinds of stuff. I got my prolactin down to 3. It was like, 3 nanograms per milliliter. Just every hour I could have sex if I wanted to, right? And I wanted to. So it wasn't a great experience, right? Because if you don't have a woman around to, you know, release, it's just like, what the hell? But otherwise, those kind of things, you know, yeah, I mean, they may help you if your estrogen or prolactin is too high, or if test isn't, you know, high enough. Nootropics Depot just released cyanidine 3-glucoside, CG3. Don't know what it does. Michael, if you had to hop off tier T, what supplements would you implement to get close to a high test reference range? Too many to reference here, or too many to give you. Like, you got to do everything from taking pine pollen to eating not loads of cholesterol, but a good bit of cholesterol in eggs. 9-MeBC helps on the dopamine side, and that'll help kind of with general mental, visceral libido. L-carnitine, L-tartrate will mildly sensitize androgen receptors, which is going to be good. Vitamin D helps you with free tests. Fenugreek helps you make more free tests. Did I say pine pollen? Yeah. Sustanch will help the Leydig cells produce more tests. So, and that's just 7 or something that I rattled off. You really should be using like 20 chemicals if you want to do it right. But it's too much to mention here. Jeff, does nicotine use desensitize or downregulate the dopamine receptors? I do not believe so. No, I don't believe so. First of all, I've never seen a paper on that. I doubt that there is one. And that may not mean it doesn't happen. It may mean it probably just means it's not studied. Bale schist, we do add timestamps to some of them, not all of them though. Do you want to manage my channel? You can do that. Do you have a channel with 3 million views? Thanks. So no, dopamine receptors are incredibly hard to desensitize. You got to be taking hardcore high affinity dopamine agonist drugs in order to desensitize dopamine receptors, or like a pharmaceutical L-Dopa for a long period of time and very high doses. But at the same time, a lot of people don't know this. If you want to upregulate dopamine receptors, lower estrogen. Lower estrogen and you will upregulate dopamine receptors. No question about it. Especially D2 receptors. And there's a paper on that of the combined use of anastrozole and cabergoline made the cabergoline work better. Why is that? Because the reduction in estradiol resensitized the dopamine D2 receptors. But no, nicotine should not desensitize dopamine receptors. Nope. A lot of people are using desensitization of dopamine receptors as like, it's a red herring or something for some other problem that they're having, related to brain performance or something. Nope. 99 out of 100 times it's not desensitization of dopamine receptors. Bale schist is not superior to regular tyrosine for dopamine. Nope. Because the measurement there, or the marker of determination of superiority, would be serum tyrosine levels. And the serum tyrosine levels between NALTs, which is the acetylated version of tyrosine, and just regular L-tyrosine is nearly no different, right? It's nearly exactly the same. And there's a paper on that. It'll be hard to dig that one up, but the NALT versus tyrosine discussion was one laser that happened many years ago in the nootropics community, so I had to look into it, and neither is similar, but neither is better, but people may get anecdotally better responses from one or the other. Unclear exactly why that's happening. So you just have to, see what works better for you. Frankly, regular tyrosine is great for me. I mean, I love this stuff. Like if I just take a little bit, again, a couple 100 milligrams, I feel pretty good. Darren, 3 to 4 times a week uridine, is that okay? Yes, optimal. I wouldn't suggest using it every single day because it depletes folate to some level. And that shouldn't be an issue for people that eat like a regular diet, but these days people are doing all kinds of weird things. People that don't eat meat at all and then don't take B vitamins, and they're going to run into a problem taking uridine. It doesn't deplete folate, it uses it. It's a kind of, they work synergistically together for brain performance. So if your diet is straight, meaning you're not omitting any macro, then, or any like whole food group, then uridine is fine to take 5-6 days a week. I just think you're inducing a lot of changes in brain chemistry, particularly neurogenesis. Like you're upregulating brain growth, neuronal growth. That's why it's in baby's formula. Uridine is in baby formula. Right? 'Cause you're trying to grow your brain. So you may want to do that 3, 4, 5 times a week and then take a couple week break. Do that for a month and take 2 weeks break, kind of thing. That's what I would suggest. Woods Bear with the camping and woods profile pic. Love that. I always love seeing that, man. What size have you experienced with too much tyrosine? I've taken it consistently about 3 months, felt good, but last week felt very off, kind of dizzy and less motivated. Hard to say that is tyrosine related. My sides were panic attacks. Yep. I was taking 500 milligrams a day for 6 months, treated me very well. I upped it to 1 gram a day, and then 2 weeks later or something, I started getting full-blown panic attacks. And had I had a panic attack in my life at that point? I think that may have been my first panic attack. Yeah. Like full-blown physiologic, uncontrollable, people like look at people having panic attacks and like, oh, just chill out, bro. You can't. You can't. There's an unstoppable physiologic process that's happening. You have to feel it to actually understand that people aren't like faking it or whatever. But yeah, too much tyrosine gave me panic attacks, but I never felt dizzy. With panic attacks, yeah, I've never felt dizzy. Why is that? There we go. I just felt like extremely fucked up, man. But I mean, this may be messing with your blood pressure. Blood pressure may be going too high, and that could cause you to have dizziness. I mean, if you're doing nothing else in the regimen, it's probably the tyrosine. It'd certainly be something to look at. Blood pressure. I'm trying to think if there's any other mechanism for that. Yeah, I mean, look into how extra noradrenaline will affect blood pressure, because I'm sure it will. Dopamine will too. Dopamine does too. So that could be the issue. If nothing else is in the picture, yeah, I mean, I would say that that's it. The tyrosine is probably, you want to lower the dose and see if that helps, but look at everything in your regimen, everything. If dizziness is not normal for you, then it's more than likely the tyrosine, and you should dial the dose back. Thank you so much for the $10. Really appreciate it, my friend. Serene 618, does vitamin E and P5P also reduce the refractory period in addition to reducing prolactin? If it reduces prolactin, yes. If it reduces prolactin enough. Like if you're at 16 and you want to take it down to 6 or 7, which should improve your refractory period, lessen it, then, and vitamin E, P5P should help you do that. Lowering estrogen too is going to help you to lower prolactin as well. And that should help refractory period. Chosen one, thoughts on Leo and longevity? Do you think he has good advice on penile enhancement? Yes, I think most of the advice that the guy's given is good. No one's perfect, right? But I think he had some pretty interesting advice. I've seen him talk about 9-MEBC. I've listened to him talk about hormones, testosterone, TRT, steroids. He was a smart dude. I'd have to go look into some of the videos on erection quality or erection enhancement to see what I think of it. But yeah, maybe I'll put that on my list to go check it out. PBB, nicotine lozenge, 2 milligram, first thing in the morning after waking up, healthy. It's not unhealthy. It's not a whole lot of nicotine, but people respond differently to nicotine. So maybe, you'll get a positive response from it. Lozenge, yeah, monitor, but it's not unhealthy. Promotes angiogenesis. The lozenges have a very short half-life, so it'll be half-lifed out of your system very soon. Half hour, hour and a half max. It's just an agonist at the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. So it binds right to them, activates those receptors, and then you get focus and processing speed. Jordan G Unit with another $10 super chat. Thanks, Jordan. Really appreciate it, man. Question is, E2 is 29 picograms per milliliter. Got it. New labs switched to matrix hormones. You'll think they'll give me a hard time getting meds with my, super physiologic test. Hoping they do AI if I need to. Thoughts on matrix? I don't have any experience with them, no. I would hope that they give you an aromatase inhibitor, especially because you're on both gonadotropin replacement and TRT, which is going to make you make supraphysiological levels of estradiol. Which despite, again, people saying, oh, just because your test is high, your estradiol follows and that's good. No, it's not good. It's not good. You need to manage estradiol and TRT for most guys, not everybody. Some guys can get away with it and feel fine, but most people are going to manage it. I don't know. I don't know much about Matrix. I know that they're one of 9 very popular companies, right? So they're probably, they have some good people behind them, but I don't have any personal experience with them, nor do I know anybody who does. Off the top of my head, I don't think I know anyone who goes to Matrix. Yeah, there's a couple that you're switching to Matrix, so good. You're gonna have to communicate with them. It's like if the switch already happened, you're kind of like, you gotta wait and see. If they don't prescribe an AI, like, so my clinic, as an example, doesn't prescribe aromatase inhibitors. They're of the idea that if you micro-inject, you don't need an AI, and that's horseshit, right? I mean, doctors can be dogmatic too. It just doesn't line up with literature nor people's experiences. So my clinic doesn't prescribe an AI. So I had to go through a separate doctor, just an online telemedicine clinic that's just doctors for general physicians. And I ended up getting a guy who is on TRT. Now he's on pellets, like they inject him in your, glutes, and they sit there and disperse over an even period of months or whatever. And takes a low dose of anastrozole once a week, right? So he knew exactly, like, he wasn't a stranger to it. He understands the benefit of managing estrogen on TRT. And so, he prescribed me the Arimidex, the anastrozole, right? So you may need to find an outside doc, a separate endocrinologist. Not everyone's going to prescribe it. Some people are going to be afraid of it because it's only, there are, actual research papers of anastrozole with men on TRT. There's actually more than the pro-estrogen guys would have you believe. They're out there. You just got to look at. They would love for them to not be out there, but they are. So yeah, there are people that understand the significance of using an AI when you're on TRT. It's more people than not. It's only that vocal minority that are like, oh, AIs, they're bad, whatever. No, they're not. Wiping estrogen out is bad. You don't want to do that. And yeah, AIs could be certainly a little less potent, especially Arimidex is very powerful. Drops your E2 quick. I dropped my E2 from, I've crashed it too, by the way, and that wasn't fun. But I dropped it from 34 picograms per milliliter, ultra sensitive, to 18 with 0.125, right? That's insane. But I figured out at a certain frequency, it was like with that protocol every fourth day, 0.125 was actually perfect, because then it started raising back up with the, subsequent injections of testosterone. So good luck with matrix. I don't know, but I think 29 is okay. I think 29 is good. If you feel good at 29, that's great. The scientific literature on, the cardioprotective or, cardio sort of toxic effects of E2, depending on the ranges, past 31 picograms per milliliter, more chance of dying when you have cardiovascular issues. Below 20 picograms per milliliter, more chance of dying, and a slightly higher chance of dying when it's below 20. Between 20 and 30, less chance of dying. Thank you for the $10, Jordan. Really appreciate it, man. Chosen One, thoughts on microdosing weed while working to get into flow state? Yeah, if it works for you, it works for you. I'm not a big pot smoker anymore. I was. Like, I smoked in my teenage years, then I joined the Army and obviously couldn't smoke. I smoked when I got out of the Army. And then I smoked a lot, like in a previous relationship with a woman who was just a total disaster. Maybe that's why I was smoking. But, I would use it for creative things, etc., but ultimately just not the best for cognitive performance. Microdosing, however, if you respond well to it and it's not, messing with your productivity, I really don't see a problem with it. Just, look at your hormones, make sure estrogen is not going out of range or prolactin isn't, because pot suppresses prolactin. But then, if it's like, to what extent does that, will that cause a rebound of prolactin at a certain point? If you stop smoking and you're used to that suppression of prolactin, would it then, go out of range? Otherwise, I think it's fine. Jonathan is saying, I had a stroke in 2014. Sorry, glad you're still alive. Required a craniotomy. So many things changed for me mentally. Got ADHD, major depression. What can I do to elevate mood and combat anhedonia? Hard to say. I mean, that's a way different scenario than like average guy that's got some issues that may need nootropics or some sort of intervention to help. I would look into the studies on CDP choline or citicholine and the restoration of dopaminergic neurotransmission after strokes, because there is literature on that. So that's what I would look at. In addition to that, you may want to look at a product called Suvenaid. Suvenaid, Souvenaid, Suvenaid. It's a product out of Australia that has uridine and choline and B vitamins and DHA, magnesium, vitamin E. A couple more things, which is studied for this kind of thing. Alzheimer's, but this sort of thing too. You can replicate the stack that's in Suvenaid, with just buying supplements. Serene 618 supplements to reduce estradiol. Estradiol? The only supplement that actually has the ability to reduce estradiol, that's E2, is Myomin. Myomin. And you can't even find it anywhere. You can find it on Amazon, and that's it. It's a combination of some Chinese herbs, and that has been demonstrated to be a mild aromatase inhibitor, which means it's going to lower, the conversion of test to estrogen. Otherwise, nothing. Zinc, I shouldn't say nothing. Zinc should help to manage estrogen to a certain extent. It's not going to really lower it significantly. But yeah, zinc and Myomin are honestly your best bets. Diindolylmethane does nothing for estradiol. You know, it's helping you flush out the phyto and xenoestrogens predominantly. DIM is a useful compound, you know, for estriol, estrone, but nothing for estradiol. Yeah, you'd be looking at, you know, I mean, if you're on TRT, definitely aromatase inhibitor to do that. If you're not on TRT, though, you could probably get away with zinc or myomin. Darren, basic everyday nootropic stack. It changes. Vitamins, B vitamins, vitamin D in the morning, diindolylmethane in the morning. Other vitamins, quercetin 2-3 times a week. I just started taking NMN. So we'll see, you know, I mean, there may be some, it's going to be hard to quantify how it's affecting me considering everything else I'm taking. But I mean, if there's some noticeable energy benefits, and I'll report on that. Intermittent use of Alcar in the morning, 400 milligrams. Intermittent use of avanaracetam in the morning, 300 milligrams or so. I don't usually dose a standalone choline source. Trying to think of what else is in my morning regimen. Well, the liposomal glutathione is like later in the regimen, so that's not technically morning, but it is around 10 a.m. But my morning is like 5:45. I wake up 5:30, and then I'm taking stuff at 5:45. What the hell else is in my morning regimen? B complex. Did I mention that? Because definitely the B complex is in the regimen. I had somewhat. It wasn't low, but it was lowish on the reference range ferritin last time I looked at it, and that's something that can happen on TRT. So I just started taking lactoferrin, and that's about it. But I have dosed various nootropic stacks in the morning. I did a stint of 400 milligrams Alcar. It was like 6 months straight. Very powerful. Again, I like to medium dose, really low dose racetams in the morning with my supplement regimen, and that makes me. It's like I don't feel like this stimulant acute effect, but my cognition is just generally better for the first 3 to 4 hours of my day. Ooze 1, nootropics to start for fatigue, brain fog, focus and study. Don't know. You have to look at why the fatigue is happening, you know? Difficult to say. Any nootropic that is wakefulness promoting, like modafinil, theobromine, dynamine, or teocrine, should help with fatigue and focus. Any one of the racetams will help too. A compound that addresses all of that would be phenylpiracetam hydrazide. That would be my suggestion, my man. What are you guys doing today, man? What is it like where you are? I'm in Pittsburgh, the great city of Pittsburgh, the great beer city. A lot of beer here. It's the Steel City. It's the city of massive creativity, cool people, and lots of shit to do. And it is pouring, bro. It's just been nothing but rain. Nah, this week was actually very nice. It just started raining. So, okay, fine. I don't think there's a fight on tonight, so who knows what the hell I'm doing later on tonight. I'll try to find someone to maybe grab dinner with. I like to do that on the weekends. And then tomorrow's Sunday. Not really sure what's going on tomorrow either. No idea. If it's nice, I will probably wash my car, do some stuff in the yard. Carbon 60, don't know what that is. Is it a nootropic? Is it a research chemical? What is that? Don't know, bro. As you guys see in the top left-hand corner, I guess it's the top left-hand corner. Depends on how this is projecting. Discount on Torque, 25% off. That's a hefty discount. Go buy a bottle. The stuff is powerful. Like, if I don't have it by my desk, I start to get worried. I honestly start to get a little worried when I see it running out. Like, I don't keep bottles here. We have a fulfillment center that ships the product, right? So I have to go and make an order, change the price real quick on a it's like I have this different setup where I can just get the Torque sent to me from the fulfillment center. And when that starts happening, I'm like, oh crap, I got to get more Torque. This stuff is just exceptionally strong. 25% off. What is up there with the most purchased nootropic stacks. These guys that are putting stacks out with 8, 9 ingredients, 10 ingredients, all overdosed, no experience in actual neuroscience or nootropics. You got Torque for half the price, and it's way better. This is a premium nootropic stack for a regular nootropic stack price. And with the 25% off discount, you're getting it even cheaper. No brainer, guys. When you take 2 capsules of Torque, you're going to notice it. Wow, holy crap, my brain works again. Wow, I'm energized. Wow, I want to do stuff. I'm interested in things. My memory's better. I'm more verbally fluent. I have more energy. That's what Torque delivers. Go get it on discount because that discount is ending soon. Circus Colt is saying that there's a kick-ass band in Pittsburgh called Code Orange. Good to know. DJ Millen, any reason you took Alcar out of your morning regimen? Nothing particular. No side effects. It's just that I reached the 6-month mark and I'm like, that will be a great video. So I took it out and was like, okay, let's just see how I feel after, and then let me analyze my function throughout the 6 months of taking it. And I did a video on it. It's called 180 Days Straight of Alcar. So you can find my experience there. Jonathan is asking about peptides. Yeah, C-Max, C-Lank, both awesome. I like C-Max a little better. C-Lank makes me feel a little relaxed, like too relaxed, which is bizarre. But it has some GABA A modulation properties, so that's actually why that happens for me. C-Max has some dopaminergic properties, which I really like. Look, I've taken gonadorelin, I've taken kisspeptin. This was before I was on testosterone. And yeah, I think I didn't actually test my bloods, which was dumb of me. But I did have increases in libido, a little bit of strength, erection quality, so it probably did make me, make more LH and FSH. Otherwise, peptides, BPC 157, injected into my shoulder, seemed to help a shoulder injury like 6 years ago. Any other peptides? No, I'm not huge into peptides, but I'm going to start experimenting with like more peptides, especially peptides related to growth hormone and things of that nature. I just think, I want to tread carefully because there's more about it that I need to learn. Papillon is saying, just want to say thanks for all that you do. I think you should have way more recognition. You do a lot of great information. Keep it up. Thank you. Yeah, we're working on it. We're trying to get out of when we were banned on YouTube, what ultimately ended up being a complete down-regulation of like the projectability of the channel across the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm. It's going to take time. It's just going to take time. Our last ban was literally just about a year ago, right? Maybe less than no, it was when I was seeing Lexi. When was I seeing Lexi? Yeah, last June or something. So that's the last time we were banned, right? So like it's just, if they ban us again, it's just gonna be a problem. But that's why you guys gotta like the video. Just like every video possible, comment, share the stuff, if you really care enough. If you don't, fair enough, all good. But Papillon, I really appreciate that, man. Great profile pic. Awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to end the stream. Great questions. We'll be on another stream next week, next Saturday, more than likely 10 a.m. Eastern time or 9:45. I may do a surprise one Thursday, so just make sure you have notifications to get notified of all future content. Again, Torque Stack is 25% off. The code, I hope you guys can actually see that, is 25 Torque, 25 Torque, 25% off of the Torque. I mean, that's taking an entire quarter off of the price of that stack. It is a very powerful nootropic stack. I got a lot of cool content lined up for this week, so look forward to that. Any other maintenance crap that we got to talk about? No, I guess that's it. Look out for Cortex launching in, it's probably going to be July at this point, at the very latest August, but certainly in the next couple months. Going to be sick. I changed the formula. It is better. It is stronger. It is more stimulating. It lasts longer. It's more flow inducing. And I will obviously be speaking or yelling from the rooftops